It's even possible. I mean, and my last question, I suppose, would be like, what do you see about yoga studios? What, in logistic terms, to try and like set some of these precedents right? I mean, because you're going into classes and we're still seeing, a bunch of people there that are basically good at it, right? And many people, as we know, all people can get the benefit of yoga, regardless whether they're physically good at it. But the accomplishment culture, right, and this kind of the capitalist mentality of, uh, it stops us. And then the yoga studios are really the benchmarks of how we can get yoga more, how we can change the path, right? So, I mean, what can they do
I
to
think
try and change this?
we have to really practice yoga. Like yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. If you're looking at Patanjali yoga, and then he has like all these other verses just to back up that one idea and give ideas and ways of doing that. So if we really go back to what yoga is, then we'll stop putting people on the pedestal just because of the way that their poses look, because that does not necessarily mean that they have control over their minds. It does not mean that they have the ability to let go of their toxic thoughts and connect with the divine. That is not it's not a display of that. And so if we stop treating people like your ability to do crazy postures is a display of how dedicated you are to a yoga practice, which it isn't necessarily. There are dedicated yogis who never, ever, ever do an asana, right? So we have to create these cultures where people know what yoga is, know the place of asana, that it's really just a way for us. I mean, there's so many reasons for asana, but if we looked at trauma informed, it's a way for us to move trauma out of the body. And it's a way to use that, get to that emotional brain, because when we feel things in our bodies, it can start to get us from fight or flight and lift us up to that emotional part of our brain. And then maybe we can transcend and go start using the higher brain. But it's just a tool in a toolbox, and it's not the be all and the end all. And we have to create these communities and cultures that understand that we're not putting people on pedestals simply because they're pretty and because they were born with genetic hypermobility, that we're actually looking at the way people live. And are they really practicing yoga? And that's an inside thing that can't be seen in a picture.
I think we're fighting an uphill struggle, aren't we?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we could say, Instagram can be used differently. Like, your social media has varied content, and some of it is postural based, and it's encouraging and inspiring, and some, and you do Yoga Sutra stuff fantastically, and a whole bunch of different stuff. So I think that's one thing, that you need to vary and have reasonable and diverse media content, right? And but then if you're young, as you say, if you're young and pretty and flexible, then there's the temptation is there just to just to use that privilege, right? We could say exploit the privilege, right? And that will work.
But you can use the privilege, but you use your privilege use your privilege for good. Like you got the audience, you've got the people watching you because of the way that you look and your postures. Then how can you use that privilege to move the world forward? And if you say that you're a yogi, how can you use that privilege in order to educate people on the other parts of yoga? There's ways to do it. So yes, you have that privilege. I had that privilege, and I still kind of do, as far as I was hypermobile, but then I injured myself, and so my hypermobility is a thing in the past. But anyway, I was hypermobile for a long time, so there's no shame in it, and I love doing things with my body. I was there, so I get it. And again, it's not about shaming people. It's about, okay, use your privilege. People watch you, they look at you. Okay, so that you've got the audience. What can you do with that? And honestly, I'm going to say this, and some people may disagree with me, but that's one of the reasons why I really like Kino. And I like Kino, and I like Kino a lot. And because that's one thing that she has done, is she's used her privilege to uplift different voices.
Yes.
She's been doing this very well for the last few years. And that's how you do it. She has all the, and look at you with your podcast, all the different people that you interview, all the different topics that you bring up on your Instagram.
We hope,
that's how you do it.
Yeah, we hope after 20 years of yoga, something's clicked. That you start to realize there's something more. But what about, I mean, going to the last thing I'd say is, what about the yoga studios? I mean, I'm sure that they are the front runners of any change that's to be made. And you talk about person-centered yoga. It's like, can you really do that in a class? I mean, the studio I was talking about in London. I mean, they needed full classes. They needed. I mean, like you had to have, because that is the only way that could stay afloat, right? And especially now in these times, right, when classes are dwindling with online attendance, right? I mean, can you really do what you're suggesting in a yoga center that needs to pay rent?
I think it's going to take some sacrifice.
Yeah,
If we're not really willing to feel uncomfortable, then it's not going to happen. So one way to do it would maybe just to introduce a class, and it could be a monthly class, part of a series where with whatever it is that you want to see more of in your yoga space. So maybe it's a meditation class. And once a week you have meditation and you're not looking for that class to make money, to pay your rent. You
mm,
put it there because you're trying to move the needle forward. You're trying to get students more interested in other ways, other limbs of yoga. So you add this meditation class with the idea that this is a labor of love. This is about exposure. And then one thing that yoga studios don't do, like I've seen studios add the class, but they don't push
right,
people to go to the class.
right,
It's
right,
like
right.
you have to have your teachers uplift that class, talk about that class, talk about
Yeah,
why it's important. It can't just be that redheaded stepchild class on the schedule. It's got to be like, y'all need to go check out this new meditation class, and you got to
yeah,
put it forward and let that class just be a labor of love and use that to start to move the needle. And again, little things you can do in your classes.
yeah,
So, say for instance, you're focusing this year, the studio is going to focus on getting more people meditating. So, how can we do that in our normal classes? Okay, if we normally only do a 3-minute shavasana, we are now going to all do 4-minute shavasanas. All right, just a way to move the needle forward. If we normally just start class just right away, we're going to add 30 seconds to the beginning of the class where we just have people sit quietly and watch their breath. Right, little things like that. Then
yeah.
after the students get
Mm-mm.
used to that, they might complain, oh, after they start getting used to that, then it's like, okay, they're used to the longer shavasanas. Can we add another minute? Can we educate them on why they should do shavasana? Why is it good? Then can we make the the jump from that long shavasana into the meditation class? And then after a while, maybe meditation just starts to get added to the end of every class. Like
Yeah.
there's ways to do it where you slowly move the needle
Mm-mm.
forward. And that process might take 3 years, but at least you are trying. Like
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
in, maybe you're
I
bringing
mean,
in special meditation
that's the
teachers.
thing,
Maybe you
isn't it?
have
It
a
doesn't look.
meditation
Yeah.
challenge. You have to
Yeah.
try.
Doesn't look good for the
And
brand though. That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, that's the whole thing is like small changes. What they don't really factor in your whole brand and image, right? You make a big splash, that's something to say, isn't it? I mean, can we debrand? Are we talking about debranding the yoga studio, right? Trying to debrand what's super
but
branded now.
people change their brands all the time. I mean,
Mm.
you know, ca- capitalistic companies change their brand all the time, and do it for the better. I remember Apple computer was like the weird computer that like nobody wanted to use, and there would be like one or two in the. I remember when I was
Yeah.
in college, there'd be like one or two in the computer lab, and nobody would want to use them. And then now it's like iPhones are Apple. I'm on a Mac computer. Macs are known as like the best computer you can buy in the store. Like you go in the store and they're like, yeah, you can get that, or you can get the Mac.
Yeah.
And the Mac is like really super expensive and all of this stuff. And it's like, and it took them rebranding to get to that place. So companies do it all the time. So we can
So
rebrand
we're talking a
and do it
rebranding, not
beautifully.
debranding. Rebranding, not
Yeah.
debranding. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we can rebrand and
All
do it
right.
beautifully.